Well, the U.S. is starting to see low positivity rates across the nation, but we have seen numbers drop before, only to rise again. For more on what we can expect in year number 3, let's bring in Dr. Jane Morgan, the executive director of the COVID-19 task force at Piedmont Healthcare here in Atlanta. Dr. Morgan, thank you so much. Always good to have you. Now, we've seen these types of declines before, especially around the holidays, and after the holidays, we see that peak once again. So is this the same show at a different time, or do we think that we are on the other side of this pandemic now?
Alex, as we look out, I think one of the things that we can perhaps expect in wealthier nations like the United States is that year 3 will certainly be better than year 2 and year 1. We saw clearly that there's a decoupling of cases and hospitalizations for those who are vaccinated. Wealthier nations have achieved higher vaccination rates. And so we can expect a healthier year 3. Other things that we may anticipate as we move into year 3 are more therapeutic science continuing to move forward. We're looking at chemokine inhibitors, immune modulators, protease inhibitors, polyclonal antibody therapies, repurposing of some drugs to new indications, including asthma drugs, depression drugs. And so you think about even the route of administration, we'll have therapeutics that can be inhaled as well. And so I think we will see that clinical trials will be accelerated in these areas, and we will continue to see science continue to combat this. And we will see a lot of that advantages. Unfortunately, in wealthier nations, we will see poor nations continue to suffer.
So we just had a graphic up on the screen that said fully vaccinated here in the U.S., 65.1%, I believe. Do you see that hesitation, that vaccine hesitancy still continuing on as this goes on? Do we think that there will be even less people getting vaccinated as those therapeutic treatments become more popular, maybe more accessible?
And so I think that is a concern, but we have to look at the fact that those who were vaccinated, by and large, avoided hospitalizations, and not as individuals, as nations. When we look at wealthier nations, when we look at Denmark, when we look at England, when we look at the United States, all of that is very comparable. And so that cannot be discounted. You know, one of the things that we absolutely saw during the Omicron surge, and also contributing to that, was just this COVID fatigue. But we certainly saw 3 groups emerge with this behavioral sort of reticence to move forward with taking care of yourselves during this pandemic. And that was really, you know, our youth. And surprisingly, those who were fully vaccinated felt also this degree of protection, and then those with a very strong political ideology.
Right. And it seems, you know, a lot of the people that I speak to, my friends, my family, there's a sense of cautious optimism right now because, yes, we're in this period where we see these declines in cases and decline of hospital beds being taken up. But there is still that kind of lingering thought in the back of your mind. I want to talk to you now about relaxed mask and vaccine mandates. We ran a piece earlier in the show about spring break being, you know, just a couple of weeks away. People are itching to travel and finally either get out the country if they can, or, you know, go across the country in the United States. How are these relaxed mandates going to affect the decline that we're seeing now?
I like this Swiss cheese model that I've seen being used. And if you look at a slice of Swiss cheese, multiple holes are in it. The holes are irregular. You stack another piece on top of it. Those holes are irregular. And so it will take 2 or 3 or 4 slices for you to get a solid block. And I think we should look at every slice of Swiss cheese as a mitigation measure. Maybe one slice are the mask, another slice is social distancing, another slice are vaccines, another slice, you know, is mitigating your surroundings, washing your hands. And so as we move around and begin to slowly move into this endemic stage, make sure you're always implementing 2 or 3 slices of the cheese such that you have a complete block and all of those holes are covered. Remember, we can slide backwards as well. And so think about that, have situational awareness, and think about this Swiss cheese model and which mitigation measures you need to implement to continue to keep yourself safe and society safe.
And that is really such a great visual, too, there. Dr. Jane Morgan is the executive director of the COVID-19 task force at Piedmont Healthcare here in Atlanta. Thank you so much for your time, as always.
Thanks, Alex.